Hi there, welcome to another post for Between the Cracks. This week I've chosen to showcase Lola's Secret, written by Monica McKennany. Sorry, not very good with the Irish. I brought this in I pre-ordered this paperback because I absolutely loved the Alphabet Sisters that I'd read and reviewed in 2011. My favourite character was Lola, so I was really excited that Lola's Secret was going to be published. I'm going to read you part from chapter 1. Even after more than 60 years of living in Australia, 84-year-old Lola Quinlan couldn't get used to a hot Christmas. Back home in Ireland, December had meant short days, darkness by 4 p.m, open fires and frosty walks. Snow if they were lucky. Her mother had loved following Christmas traditions, many of them passed down by her own mother. The tree decorated a week before Christmas Day and not a day earlier. Carols in the chilly church before midnight mass. Lola's favourite tradition of all had been the placing of a lit candle in each window of the house on Christmas Eve. It was a symbolic welcome to Mary and Joseph, but also a message to any passing stranger that they would be made welcome too. As a child, she'd begged to be the one to light the candles, carefully tying back the curtains to avoid the chance of fire. Afterwards, she'd stood outside with her parents, their breath 3 frosty clouds, gazing up at their 2-storey house transformed into something almost magical. She was a long way from Ireland and dark frosty Decembers now. 16,000 kilometres and about 35 degrees Celsius to be exact. The temperature in the Clare Valley of South Australia was already heading towards 40 degrees, and it wasn't even 10 a.m. yet. The hills that were visible through the window were burnt golden by the sun, not a blade of green grass to be seen. There was no sound of carols or tinkling sleigh bells. The loudest noise was coming from the air conditioner behind her. If she did take a notion to start lighting candles and placing them in all her windows, there was every chance the fire brigade would come roaring up the hill, sirens blaring and water hoses at the ready. At last count, the Valley View Motel that Lola called home had more than 60 windows. Imagine that, Lola mused. 60 candles ablaze at once. It would be quite a sight. Almost worth the trouble it would cause. Are you plotting mischief? I know that look. At the sound of her son's voice, Lola turned from her seat at one of the dining room tables and smiled. I wouldn't dream of it, you know me. Harmless as a kitten. Jim simply raised an eyebrow before pulling out a chair and sitting down opposite his mother. I was talking about you with Bet and Carrie today. We've all agreed it's not too late to change your mind. About what? My lunch order? It's Friday. I always have fish on Fridays. Another tradition from her days in Ireland, even if she'd long ago stopped following any religion. About you sending us away and taking charge of a 15-room motel on your own for 5 days. At Christmas. At the age of 84. You make me sound quite mad. I don't, actually. You manage it perfectly well on your own. Lola stood, reached for her stick, and drew herself up to her full 5 foot 9 inches, fixing her 64-year-old son with a gaze that had worked to silence him as a child, but hadn't had much effect for many years now. There was a brief staring contest, and then she started to laugh. Of course I'm mad, darling. You don't live as long as I do if you have any sense. What's the point? Hips giving up, hearing going, wits long gone. So you admit it then? Will I call off our driving trip? Tell Bet and Carrie to cancel their holidays too? Say that you'd gone temporarily insane and you didn't mean it? And what? Let you and Geraldine down? Let down my poor adorable granddaughters and their even more adorable children, not to mention their handsome husbands and their handsome husbands' families? Never. In fact, why don't you leave now? All of you. Begone. Leave an old lady in relative peace. Literally. That's what I'm worried about. What if we're not leaving you in peace? It's the middle of one of the hottest summers on record. We haven't had a drop of rain in years. The valley is beautiful, yes, but as dry as a bone. Who on earth is going to choose to spend Christmas in a parched country motel? She opened the bookings register to the week of December the 25th and placed it in front of her son. See? Not a sinner or a saint. It'll just be poor old me rattling around the place on my own while the turkey stays happily frozen in the cool room, the puddings soak in their brandy for another 12 months, and you and Geraldine and the girls hopefully get to have a proper Christmas break. Jim flicked through the pages, frowning. It's odd, isn't it? This time last year we were much busier. I thought we'd have at least one booking, that you'd have someone to talk to. I'll be grand, darling. I'll have the radio for company. They have lovely programmes on Christmas Day for lonely, abandoned old women like myself. She laughed at the expression on his face. I'm teasing you, Jim. Don't get guilty on me and insist on staying, please. You know I enjoy my own company. Now, shouldn't you be helping Geraldine pack your bags, getting the tyres pumped up, checking the oil? A driving holiday won't organise itself. Jim was still distracted by the empty bookings register. That's the last time I try an online advertising campaign. Everybody kept telling me it's the only way people find motel accommodation these days, but it obviously didn't work for us. Our computer problems haven't helped either. Never mind, darling. Worry about your advertising next year. Off you go, leave me alone. I have 84 action-packed years I want to sit here and reminisce about before I go do my shift at the charity shop. I think you should cut down your hours there, by the way. She put her fingers in her ears. Not listening, Jim. Reminiscing. She shut her eyes tight, like a child, until he left the room. After a moment she opened one eye to be sure he'd gone. Thank God. Any longer and she'd have been forced to tell him the truth. That in fact his online advertising campaign had worked wonders. She'd been receiving email inquiries all week. Not on the motel computer, of course. It had been broken, been down in the computer parlance she loved using, for the past 4 days. Her official story to her fortunately distracted son and his wife was that the server was having problems. Server, she'd said, pretending more amazement. In my day that word meant maid or waitress. The truth was she'd pulled out the internet cable on the office computer, hidden it too, to be doubly sure they stayed offline. The last thing she needed was Jim or Geraldine seeing the emails asking for more information about their Christmas special offer. As it happened, they didn't know much about what that Christmas special offer comprised either. Why bother them when they were in almost holiday mode? When even the hint that there could be a Christmas guest or two at the Valley View Motel might make them change their minds about going away. Lola had given her plan a great deal of thought. So I love Lola. She's fabulous, fabulous character. And I really should bump this up my TBR pile. Have you read any by Monica McInerney? Sorry, I still can't pronounce it.